So welcome, Kingsley Goddard.
Thank you all. I can't believe all of you are here for the interest in this. I know it's just warm in here, right? Because the lobster truck's outside. This actually, I'd like to start with, this was written by my great uncle, I guess it would be. It's called Memories of a Madison Boy 50 Years Ago. And this was written for the Madison Historical Society by my great uncle in 1928. And when we read through this, he gives vignettes of all these different characters in town, and many of the names are still here.
Kingsley, I'm going to hand you a mic.
Oh, I have to do that
Just
for
for
you.
this important.
Okay.
Some of our guests. Thank you very much.
He ends it by saying, after all these little vignettes of folks, he ends it with really timeless words. And when we read these words, it was like, wow, nothing has really changed. And this is almost 100 years later. So let me start with this. His ending is our beginning. And there were many, many other noblemen and women represented by these slight character sketches, which are recalled by association of some remembered incident. Many good families whose homesteads, now in possession of others, are mute evidence of a character and type we should not forget. Truly, it seemed, they were giants in those days, very human, with many faults, no doubt. They seemed a more colorful and picturesque product of a simpler time, with a kind of biblical character not seen today. And, as Madison was but a cross-section of the country, it is interesting to the social student to compare the modern trend. It is vital to us in the flood of alien influence to preserve by personal records and through our historical societies the spirit and traditions of what is too precious to forget or permit to perish through neglect. And I couldn't help but think, that sounds an awful lot like today, where my kids are sitting there in the laptop and there's their alien influence. Anyhow, so let us start as close as we can to the beginning. The Goddards first arrived in 1868. The family purchased a home from the Graves family, just a stone's throw from here on land that is now Academy School. And that house, which is sketched, I believe, by Mary Scranton. And this was torn down to make way, as I said, for the New Hand Academy. The two brothers of Frederick Bartlett Goddard settled and built homes in Madison. Ralph Goddard built a home on Elm Street, present-day Boston Post Road. And this is the home of Ralph Goddard, which still exists today. Or not.
Emma Furman.
Home of Ralph Goddard? Or did we miss one? No, I don't know. There it is. There it is. You can note the carriage house in the beginning, and this house is still across the street from us, now has gone through several different owners, and there it is today. Actually, literally today. I think Kellyanne went out and took this photo today. I have to say that most of this presentation is really Kelly, because 90% of these pictures are Kelly's pictures, and the other 10% are Clark's pictures. So all I am is the talking head. This is the Boston Post Road facing east. So our farm would actually be just halfway down the road here. Looks a little different today. This is the same perspective today. So you can see the difference between the two. Anyhow, in 1868, the Beers map of New Haven County shows Barbary Hill as numerous parcels owned by different people. The Reverend M.P. Dudley, T. Dudley and B. Brawley are three names encompassing what is now Barbary Hill Farm. Sometime between 1870 and 1900, Carl and Ida Sonicson, who were German immigrants, purchased the property, in addition to the property around which is now the 14th hole of Madison Country Club. The 25-acre parcel from Boston Post Road to the New Haven Railway was purchased by my great-uncle, Henry Warren Goddard, in 1907. And this is an outline of the property today from a Google map. You can see it goes from Route 1 to the New Haven Railroad tracks. A man who spent a better part of his boyhood in Madison, the judge was quite comfortable with people in the surroundings of his new home. This photo was taken, around 1900. If you look in the background, that's Tuxas Island with no trees on it, and that's a building, which I believe was a home, or maybe it was a camp of sorts. I can't quite remember. Anyhow, some of you folks could probably tell more about that. This is the very stern judge who built the place, Henry Warren Goddard. He was appointed Federal Circuit Court judge in 1923, and he served as the judge for the second trial of Alger Hiss. There is Alger Hiss swearing in at his perjury trial. He was eventually convicted of spying for the Soviets during the Cold War. And whether or not Hiss was guilty fell on a mute country seeking a scapegoat. That's actually my favorite frame of the entire presentation.
Long dig.
The Gentleman Farm. It was originally built as a self-sufficient farm retreat. The farm layout has actually changed very little since construction began in 1909. And unlike many of the farms that formerly dotted US 1, this is set back about 500 feet from Route 1. There is the entrance as it was built. Just as you can see, the newly planted maple trees right along the side. And we can fast forward about 100 years, and there are the trees all grown up. And if we went about 2 or 3 more years, you'll see that most of them are now gone. Unfortunately, the Hurricane Irene and Sandy did their toll. All right, it was originally designed with all the modern farming tools and concepts of the 19th century. Barbary Hill still maintains much of that spirit. The geographic layout of the farm has never been particularly conducive to commercial farming. It's mostly rocks, actually. The diversity of the landscape provided an ideal locale for the turn-of-the-century homestead, or so he thought, I guess. The farm operations for the first 50 years consisted of a couple of Jersey cows, a small flock of Hampshire sheep, assorted poultry of choice, a faithful livestock guard dog, and a seasoned cart horse. Most of this has really changed very little. Of the 25 initial acre parcel, only an acre was under active cultivation. The purpose was really just to supply the family. This is a photo of the original farmhouse, and now that is actually part of our present day chicken coop. So little has changed. We have taken the roses down. Or they've died, one of the two. Most of the land was devoted to pasture, a small orchard, select variety of berries, and the remainder of the land was basically just left open. It was actually a great choice of land for raising livestock because it's totally surrounded on the western and northern side by the Neck River and the swamp, so there was no need to fence off part of that area, which made it ideal for really raising landscape sheep at that point, which was their main thing. As a busy federal court judge in New York, the judge built Barbary Hill as a retreat for he and his wife, Mabel Mormon. The judge's true love was the game of golf. And with the help of his close friend, Judge Williams, founded and carried through the Depression the Madison Country Club. This is a photo of the Madison Country Club from the water. This is the original Madison Country Club, which is on Middle Beach Road. The new one is now, well, I say the new one, is now on Boston Post Road. There's a shot of it from Middle Beach Road. This is actually right just north of the Schumann compound area. So if that gives you an idea. Ironically, the judge died on the 17th hole of his beloved Madison golf course. And with no heirs, the property went up for sale. Actually, as the story has it, it was a closed bid, which I don't quite understand how it all worked. But the property went up for sale. People put in bids on the property, my father being one of them. And the next major competitor was Hiram Birnbaum, who owned a great deal of land in town. And apparently when High heard that my father was bidding on it, High, who had a bid that was probably twice my father's, withdrew his bid and let my father have the farm. So thank you, Birnbaum. The next 20 years saw little change to the farm as the new owner, the nephew of the judge, Richard Mason Goddard Jr., had 4 young children and a job in New York. So Barbary Hill remained a homestead retreat, I suppose. Richard Mason Goddard, better known as Dick to town, finally retired to Barbary Hill in '73, and he really proceeded to devote himself to the land, his family, and really his love of the sea. Madison seemed a perfect place, but he wasn't really a farmer, let's put it that way. There's my dad, 18-year veteran of the Navy and Coast Guard. It's kind of odd that he took up farming, but he really did love it. But his true love was truly of the sea. And unfortunately, that has transposed over to me as well. He's perhaps best remembered around town for doing his civic things. He was sort of a quiet spokesman for getting people to move on various pet projects which he had. And as a result, I think the town was very appreciative of a lot of what he had accomplished in town, including Scranton Park and behind town, the parking lot there, and some landscaping and various other projects as well. When he finally died in 1987, we all came close to parting with Barbary Hill because we were saddled with an enormous debt to cover the capital gains between what he bought it for, which was a song and a dance, and what the IRS said it was valued at, which was a lot more than that. So what we had planned to do was to put the 8-acre rear parcel up for sale, and hopefully that was going to satisfy the debt for the rest of the farm so that we could pay off our taxes. Through a decade of legal wrangling and patient perseverance, the debt with the government was finally settled. And now the 4 children were equal owners in a 25-acre Barbary Hill farm. And there are the new owners. That is big sister Andy, age 12. The little guy in the middle is the goat. Oh no, I'm sorry. Anyhow, that's the whole family. And that's the leader who took over. Commencing in earnest in 1988, after my father's death, I began to pursue anything that would really sustain the farm. I tried a small flock of existing sheep, and I brought them up to about 70, which was a big mistake. I started boarding horses, which was an even larger mistake. I put in 12,000 Christmas tree seedlings, and that didn't work so well. I took a pickup truck, a chainsaw, and that's really how I did most of it. I could tell you the horror stories of, entitled horse owners and the way that sheep can die, and mishaps with chainsaws and land clearing. It would fill evenings of entertainment for you folks. Anyhow, finally, I began really in earnest trying to raise crops. And I started by actually just pushing leaves around and making hay for the sheep, showing off the new additions for the farm. But really the first visible changes to the passerby was the small self-service table at the entrance to the driveway on sunny days, where a few heads of lettuce would appear. The joke has actually always been, oh yeah, each head earns me 50 cents. 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents. I still get teased about it today. So, much needed clearing provided firewood for the ailing homestead furnace, and some really nice fire fuel for folks in town, and a little more income for the effort. Really, in the first 3 years, I cleared over 6 acres with a chainsaw and a pickup truck. And I don't know how I lived through it, I really don't. The rear parcel was originally a cornfield in the 1940s and 50s, and had been planted with evergreens and larch trees as part of a state reforestation project. The Christmas tree program, with little maintenance over the years, was eventually re-cleared and replanted with evergreens that we still use every season to make holiday decorations.